ventricle below the right ventricle. So, okay, so you got all of that. So just remember that the left atrium is nearest to the spine. Alright, so this is a reasonably good four-chamber section. Rib, rib. Spine. This is left or right? Atrium or ventricle? Atrium. Alright. Okay. That's it. We can all go home now. You know how to acquire a four-chamber section. You can recognize the atria and the ventricle. That's it.
Excellent.
All right. So, spine, left atrium. Spine, left atrium. Next to it is the right atrium. Below this is the right ventricle, and next to it is the left ventricle. Now, जी 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 अभी करेंगे अभी करेंगे Okay, now this is good enough for about 50% of your cases. A four-chamber view is not a very powerful section for looking at the heart, but this is the best available section that you have for looking at VSDs and ASDs. And since VSDs are the commonest pathology in the heart, this is probably a very good section for you to master. It's easy. You just get the two ribs on either side. You look for the atrium nearest the spine, and you have the four-chamber. It's very simple to acquire once you know how. All right, when you're doing a basic, okay, if you look at the AIUM guidelines for looking at the for fetal echocardiography, they talk about basic fetal echocardiography, and then they talk about the extended basic fetal echocardiography. So I'm using the same nomenclature. So when you're looking at the basic fetal echocardiography, which is the four-chamber view, you look at these things. You have general considerations which include the axis of the heart, the position and size of the heart. Makes sense, right? Where is the heart pointed? Where is the heart located? How big is the heart? And yeah, where is the heart? Where is it pointed? And how big the heart is? And then you see tracheostomy. Okay, axis and position. The heart points to the left. It's most of it is midline, but the apex is pointing to the left. And the axis is the interventricular septum makes an angle of about 45 degrees with a vertebro-sternal line. If you draw a straight line from the vertebrum to the sternum, and then you draw another line along the long axis of the IVS, you get an angle of 45 degrees. And it is important for you to be able to recognize when this angle is exaggerated, because sometimes that is the first inkling that you have that something is wrong with them. So if the angle is like 90 degrees, you are looking at something that is likely to be wrong with the heart. Okay? Not only is the angle important, you should also ascertain where the heart is located within the chest. Is it in the left chest, right chest? So, what are the possibilities? If the situs solitus, the angle is normally located, then this is called normal levocardia. Sometimes the heart, the apex is pointed straight towards the sternum. This is called mesocardia. Of course, dextrocardia, everybody is familiar with this term, dextrocardia, when the angle is pointed to the right. But remember, the bulk of the heart is normal, it's in the midline. If the heart is pointed to the left, but the whole heart is pushed to the right side, then that is not dextrocardia, but that is dextroposition. Now these are descriptive terms that you should be familiar with, because occasionally you're going to get a lung mass, or you're going to get diaphragmatic hernia, and that is going to displace the heart. So you should know what the proper term is when you're describing the position of the heart within the treating thorax. Okay, the size. We've looked at the axis, we've looked at the position, now let us look at the size. The heart should approximately occupy 1/3 of the chest. Yeah, approximately 1/3. Yeah, visually be the exact thing. You can just eyeball it, and it gives you an idea most of the time. You don't really have to acquire get the area of the heart, get the area of the chest, and do all of those things in every case. But sometimes, in cases where you're not sure, you will probably need to do that. Okay, so if the heart is not occupying 1/3, which generally means that the heart is occupying more than 1/3 of the area of the chest, then you need to find out, you need to diagnose whether this is a big heart in a normal chest or a normal heart in a small chest. Yeah, are you all following me?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so this is a heart. You have this area, and if you take out this, it probably fits in here, and you take out this, and it probably fits in here, and so you know that your heart is occupying about 1/3 of the chest area. But you really don't need to go through all of these drawing circumferences and all of those things. Okay, so is it the heart or the chest? What about this? Do you think is it the big heart in a small, big heart in a normal chest, or a normal heart in a small chest? How many for normal heart and small chest? Okay, about half of you, normal heart and small chest. How do you diagnose that this is a small chest and not a big? Exactly. How much should it be? Equal. Or? Okay, is there a threshold? The transverse diameter of the abdomen, the transverse diameter of the thorax should be at least 80% of the transverse diameter of the thorax. So you just draw a line through the thorax, across the thorax, draw a line across the abdomen, and you measure that line. And so if you think that the transverse thoracic diameter is less than 80% of the transverse abdominal diameter, then you're probably looking at a situation where you have a narrow chest. What are the conditions that give you a narrow chest? Okay, common conditions. G? Sternal depression. Or? Sorry?
Some types of achondroplasias.
G?
Some types of achondroplasias.
Achondroplasias. Okay? Dysplasias, thanatophoric dysplasia is common. Thanatophoric कहते हैं उसको, जिसमें pulmonary hypoplasia होता है. और जिसमें ना हो कोई external factors हो. Yes. If you have oligohydramnios, what happens is that there is not enough, the chest expands by internal stenting. The fetus breathes in amniotic fluid, and that amniotic fluid goes and expands the alveolar system, and that is how your chest expands. And so if you don't have fluid to breathe, you're likely to get pulmonary hypoplasia. And if you get a second trimester oligohydramnios, one of the reasons why that fetus is unlikely to survive is because that fetus is probably going to get pulmonary hypoplasia. It's going to live as long as you don't deliver it, because you don't need the lungs when the fetus is in utero. But when the baby is delivered, then all right. What about this one? Big heart or small thorax? Big heart. All right. Okay. So big heart. So this is probably 80% of this. So you need to see both the abdomen as well as the thorax when you are trying to look at the cardiothoracic ratio. Okay? Big heart. Really big heart. Massive. Not only do you have a big heart, you also have a pleural effusion. Let's look at the atrium. अब हमने क्या बात कर ली? Axis की बात कर ली, size की बात कर ली, position की बात कर ली. Okay, so we have discussed these three. Now look at the atria. Both atria should be the same size. You should have the flap of the foramen ovale in the left atrium, and the lower end of the interatrial septum should be present, which is the septum primum. Okay, this is important for you to identify the lower end of the septum, because in AVSD, that is where you have the defect. The lower end of the interatrial septum is missing, and if you have that, you can have a defect in the septum primum, but more often this is part of the atrioventricular septal defect or endocardial cushion defect. Okay, so you have the atria, you have the interatrial septum, you have this hole in the middle, and you have it's a very hazy, ill-defined sort of a thing in the left atrium, which is the flap of the foramen ovale, and you have the septum primum. You have the septum primum here, and you have the flap here. Ventricles, they should be of approximately the same size, although right ventricle can be slightly bigger than the left ventricle. The septum needs to be intact. You have this echogenic bar, a muscular bar, in the lower part of the right ventricle, and that is how you distinguish, one of the distinguishing features of the right ventricle from the left ventricle is when the heart is displaced and you want to look at the right ventricle, the moderator band helps you to decide whether this is the right ventricle or the left ventricle. Okay, and so somebody rightly pointed out, आपने देखा था शायद कि ये moderator band था, वाकई ये moderator band. Okay, so this is the moderator band in the right ventricle, this is the moderator band in the right ventricle, and this is the moderator band in the right ventricle. So no problems till now. Both valves should move freely, and the tricuspid valve is inserted more apically than the mitral valve. Okay, this is important. This offset between the two AV valves is important to recognize. Sometimes it becomes very subtle, but you should try and recognize this offset where the tricuspid valve is nearer to the apex than the mitral valve. Sometimes this offset is exaggerated. So the tricuspid valve is really near the apex, halfway down or 2/3 of the way down, and that is called abstinent. Brilliant. Okay. Oh, come on. जी एक लेवल पे नजर आ रहे होते हैं, उसकी वजह ये कि हम क्रक्स को मिस्टेक करते हैं. You know, there is an echogenic upwards projection that appears as if the mitral valve and the tricuspid valve are at the same level. But if you need to recognize where the crux is finishing and the anterior mitral leaflet is beginning. So you can do that. You can do that. I'm sorry, there was supposed to be a video here, which is not working. Sorry? Light click kare, next previous screen. No? No, something is wrong. Something is wrong. I don't know. Okay, so four-chamber view, we have completed our visualization of the four-chamber view. We mentioned initially that this is not the most powerful section that you have available, but this is probably one of the most important sections and the easiest sections to acquire, and will give you a lot of information. So you can see the situs, and you can see positional defects, you can see ventricular hypertrophies, dilatations, you can see hypoplasias, you can see atrial and ventricular septal defects. But what you cannot see is also important. You cannot always make out TGA, you cannot always make out TOF, you cannot make out double outlet right ventricles, coarctation of the aorta, and Fallow's tetralogy, that is TOF. We've already mentioned that. Okay, we were talking about the AIUM guidelines. There's something, we had the basic cardiac exam, and then there is the extended basic cardiac exam, which involves looking at the right ventricular outflow tracts and the left ventricular outflow tracts. Okay, that comprises the extended basic cardiac exam. All right, how do you look at the outflow tracts? The first image that I showed you, you start from the abdomen and you go all the way up to the base of the heart, and you're looking at the ductus arch and the three vessel trachea view. What you do is you get a good image of the upper abdominal vessels, and then you simply sweep upwards and you slightly angle the probe towards the left shoulder of the fetus, and that shows you everything. बहुत ज़्यादा move नहीं करना होता. The heart is very small anyway, so you just, if you get a good upper abdominal transverse section, you just need to sweep it up, and in most cases you will be able to get the outflow tracts. उमूमन जब आप sweep कर रहे होते हैं, you get the left outflow tract, which is the aortic root first, and then you get the right outflow tracts. The aorta originates from the left ventricle, and it goes to the right and then turns to left. The pulmonary trunk starts from the right ventricle, goes to the left, and trifurcates. So right से होकर left पे जा रही है, left से होकर right पे जा रही है. फिर क्या कर रहे हैं दोनों? They are crossing each other at 90 degrees, and that is very important. If you can make out a normal crossover, it probably means that you have excluded most of the major anomalies. Because if you have TGA, even if you're not sure what you're looking at, in TGA the vessels are parallel and they do not cross over. Okay, while you're looking at the outflow tracts, look for the anterior root continuity with the interventricular septum. And this is one way of making sure that you do not have any membranous VSDs. If you have a VSD there, the continuity is lost between the interventricular septum and the anterior wall of the aortic root. Look at the bifurcation of the pulmonary artery. If you're not sure about whether you're looking at the pulmonary artery or the aortic root, it happens very often. Remember that the pulmonary artery trifurcates, and you see two of those. It bifurcates. Usually, you see the right pulmonary artery and the ductus arteriosus. Left pulmonary artery usually कम नजर आता है. अभी हम देखेंगे कुछ नजर आ जाएगी, लेकिन left pulmonary artery कटी. So if you see a bifurcating great vessel, then you are looking at the pulmonary trunk. Okay. So we have the pulmonary trunk that starts from the right ventricle, and you have the aortic arch that starts from the left ventricle. And both of these cross each other at 90 degrees. Alright? So here we are. Left ventricle, right ventricle. Vessel arising from the left ventricle, going to right, and then turning to the left. क्या है ये?
जी, लेकिन स्लाइड्स इतनी लिखा हुआ नजर नहीं आ रहा.
Vessel arising from the right ventricle and continuing straight. ये क्या है?
उधर चले जाओ.
This is probably the ductus arteriosus. Okay? So again, aortic root, aortic root, aortic root. और आप ये देखिए कि this is the continuity between the interventricular septum and the aorta. Continuity between the interventricular septum and the aorta. Continuity between the interventricular septum and the aorta. So if you are able to see this in most of your patients or in all of your patients, you have practically excluded, or you have excluded in most of the cases, a significant inlet VSD or a high VSD or a greatest case. देखा आपने? ये लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल एओर्टा निकली और राइट की तरफ गई और फिर लेफ्ट. Alright? And you can see the aortic cusp inside. Is it clear? But this is something that you should be able to get in most of you, or in many of your patients. Not in all, not in most, but at least in many of your patients. With just a little bit of practice. Let's see. The ventricle, you have the aorta, and that is the arch. Okay, see this? And you can see tiny cusps there. Okay? Not bad, huh? Pulmonary artery. It starts from the right ventricle, divides into right and left, and then continues straight as the ductus artery. Okay? So, if you see something that is dividing next to the aorta, you're looking at the pulmonary artery. If it is dividing, lying next to the aorta, you're looking at the pulmonary trunk and its divisions. पहले हमें aorta नजर आई थी, ये है aorta, ये pulmonary trunk है, और ये pulmonary trunk आगे जाके ductus में convert होगी. पहले उससे हमें नजर आया था उसकी bifurcations. Okay, all right. Okay, did you see this? ये pulmonary trunk आ रही है. ये right pulmonary artery is curving in front of the aorta, और जो सीधी जा रही है वो है ductus arteriosus. So you're seeing ductus arteriosus in almost every patient of when you're doing completely cardiac. Look deep seeing the ductus arteriosus. हम लोग imagine करते हैं ductus arteriosus atoms को नहीं नजर आती. Wow! So somebody seeing the ductus arteriosus and writing patent ductus arteriosus. No, it's not a big deal. You know. Okay, now what we have done is basic cardiac exam. We have done an extended basic cardiac exam. If you are a cardiologist, they're probably doing something, they're reporting something which is called segmental sequential analysis. Okay, this is more or less the same things that we've already done. They've looked at the great vessels, they've looked at the four chambers, they've looked at the octograms. But there is a detail here. And the detail is that they are not identifying their chambers according to their location within the chest. Okay, they're not looking at the spatial orientation of the chambers. They're not saying the left ventricle is located on the left side, the right ventricle is located on the right side. They are identifying each chamber according to its anatomy. And that is what separates an echo done by a pediatric cardiologist from an echo done by all of us. That they are looking at the morphology of the chambers and the spatial orientation of the chambers. So, is the right ventricle, what is the right ventricle? Is it truly the right ventricle, or is it left ventricle which is located in the right ventricle, or do you have two right ventricles, or two left ventricles, something like that. So, this is how you can identify the individual chambers according to their anatomy. The right atrium has a triangular appendage. The left atrium has a hook appendage, and the foramen ovale flap is seen in the left atrium. So that is how you differentiate right and left. The right ventricle has a moderated band, you already know that, and it has a rough internal surface, and the tricuspid valve is inserted more epically. We have already studied that. So this is part of the sequential segmental analysis. Morphologic left ventricle has smooth internal surfaces. So we've already done that. So we've already done sort of a sequential segmental analysis. Okay, दोबारा एक दफा देख लें क्या क्या कुछ नजर आ रहा है. ये क्या है? Is it systole or diastole? The valves are closed. ये क्या है? 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 ये वो डिफरेंस है, ये वो ऑफसेट है between the tricuspid valve and अभी कहेगा मैं 2 दफा सो गया था, 3 दफा सो गया था, फिर कहेगा कि कब सो गया हूँ, फिर आप मुझे फिर एक लेक्चर मैं दोबारा नहीं दे रहा हूँ. सुने तो यार उसको जब खराटे नहीं लेता उसको फिर सुने. Alright, so this is the offset. You see that? ये tricuspid और ये is a minuscule, but it is recognizable. ये क्या है? आपको तो आ गई. That's it. We just need to see the 3 chamber and we're almost there. You're good. You know as much as I do. We've already seen this. Okay, we take our section.
The previous slide.
वही जो पहले देख चुके थे. All right. So we have done the four-chamber view. We've done the outflow tracks. We've seen that the outflow tracks are crossing at 90 degrees. अब इसको हम थोड़ा सा ऑफ कर देंगे. तो हमें ये चीज़ होगा. The aorta in the middle and the pulmonary artery and the bifurcations around it. So this is what it is. Right? Right ventricle, right atrium, left atrium, pulmonary artery, bifurcation. Beach में here. Okay, so if you're seeing that, this just means that you're looking at normal structures, and you have your section is pretty high in the fetal thorax, and you are where you will start getting the most important section. We've not done the most important section yet. The most important section is going to come to us over the next few slides. And the most important section is going to be the 3 vessel trachea. अब बेस यू से थोड़ा सा आगे चलिए. तो आपको you can either see this is the right and this is the ductus. If it is going straight, it is the ductus. If it is sweeping in front of the aorta, it is the right pulmonary artery. Generally left pulmonary artery नहीं नजर आती, but here sometimes you can be lucky and you can see the left pulmonary artery like this. If you see 2 diverging branches, you can see both. You're seeing both the right and the left pulmonary artery. The ductus goes straight from the main pulmonary artery. So if they're diverging, like a banana peel, then you're looking at the left and the right pulmonary arteries. Most of the time.